You forgot the phone number someone gave you 10 seconds ago. An air traffic controller is holding the position, altitude, speed, and heading of 15 aircraft at once. In the head. No notes. No second chances. One mistake doesn't mean a bad grade. It means a collision. Same brain. Same biological hardware as you. So why can they hold 15 moving targets in memory, while you can't hold one phone number for 10 seconds? March 27, 1977. Tenerife. 2 air traffic controllers. Far more aircraft than they'd ever handled. Thick fog rolling across the runway. A miscommunication happened. A pilot believed he had clearance. He didn't. 2 Boeing 747s collided on the same runway. It remains the deadliest accident in aviation history. The investigation found something specific. The controllers weren't incompetent. The system overwhelmed human memory in exactly the way memory fails under load. After Tenerife, the entire industry rebuilt how controllers are trained to hold information, not to remember more. To remember differently. That system is what keeps the sky safe today, and it's teachable. Researcher Bissaray studied air traffic controllers in 1971. His finding: the best controllers didn't have better raw memory for individual facts. They had better memory for relationships between aircraft. Not Flight 204 is at this altitude. Flight 204 is closing on Flight 118 4 minutes apart. Same corridor. This is relational chunking, a step beyond the pattern chunking chess grandmasters use. Researchers at FAA's Human Factors Lab, studying controllers in the 1990s, confirmed it. Experts encode aircraft not as isolated data points, but as a moving map of relative positions and distances. One web of information, not 15 separate facts. George Miller's 7-item working memory limit doesn't get broken. It gets restructured. 15 aircraft become 3 or 4 spatial relationships, but relational chunking alone won't save you, because in the time it takes to build that mental map, the situation has already changed. Here's the part that separates controllers from almost every other memory system you've heard about. Most learning techniques are built around retention, keeping information stable over time. Controllers can't do that. Their information has a shelf life of 3 to 5 minutes before it's obsolete. FAA research on controller working memory identified this directly. Information must be encoded for tactical use, then deliberately discarded and replaced. This is the opposite of what you've been taught about memory. You were taught to hold on. Controllers are trained to let go, on purpose, the instant new data arrives. Psychologists call this updating, and it draws on a completely different mental skill than storage. Storage asks, can you keep this? Updating asks, can you replace this fast enough to stay accurate? Studies on controllers found something counterintuitive. Those with excellent memory for aircraft position during a shift often couldn't recall the same information moments after handing off the sector. That's not a flaw. That's the system working exactly as designed. The information was never meant to last. It was meant to be accurate for exactly as long as it mattered, then released. If you've never thought about memory this way, subscribe. Every video on this channel is one system, broken all the way down. You'd think holding this much shifting information would eventually overload anyone. It does, which is why controllers don't rely on memory alone. Eurocontrol's research on memory in air traffic control found that controllers who wrote details on flight scripts by hand remembered the reasoning behind their decisions more accurately than controllers who didn't. Not because the paper held the information, because the act of writing it down forced a second, deeper pass through the data. This is the same principle Marcus Aurelius used for his evening review 18 centuries earlier. The hand that writes is a second encoding pathway. Controllers are trained to offload constantly, verbally to a colleague during handoff, physically onto a strip, mentally into a quick visual scan of the full board before returning to one sector. Every offload frees capacity for the next update. This is why controllers can sustain accuracy for hours, while someone holding everything purely in their head burns out in 20 minutes. The system isn't built to remember everything. It's built to know exactly what to let go of and when. You don't have a small memory. You have an untrained one. Built for holding on, never taught how to let go. Controllers prove the brain can track far more than you think, not by gripping tighter, by chunking relationships, refreshing constantly, and offloading on purpose. Hold less, update faster, let go on schedule. That's not weakness. That's the actual system experts use to manage information under real pressure. But there's a cost to a system built entirely around the present moment. Controllers are elite at holding information for minutes. They are not trained to make it last for years. For that, you need a completely different mechanism. One built not to refresh, but to lock information in permanently. The Stoics figured that out 2,000 years before air traffic existed. That video is already on this channel.